As usual, we'll give folks just a minute or so to get logged in if they're joining us online. I call this meeting of the South Ruby School Board to order. This is a business meeting, and we'll begin with our land acknowledgement. Director Jackson.
Thank you. We gather today on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish people, the Snohomish tribe, the tribes collectively affiliated with the Tulalip tribes, the Stillaguamish and Suquamish people, the people of the Lower Skagit, the speakers of the Lushootseed family of languages. The indigenous history of this land plays out in its present and in its future. The stewardship of these lands and the cultures of this region inform how we are, where we live, and how we learn today. And it is an honor to live, work, and gather in the land so lovingly stewarded generation over generation, past, present, and future, by these tribal relations.
Thank you very much. We will have a public comment period where members of the community may take up to 5 minutes to make a public comment. These will not be responded to in general by the board, because this is an opportunity for the public to address the board, not to engage in discussion. If you are on our Zoom meeting and would like to make a comment, please enter your name and general location in the Q&A feature, and we'll get it read in to the record and to the board when we get to that part of the agenda, which should be rather quickly. Are there any objections to approving the agenda and minutes as presented? Hearing none, the agenda and minutes are approved as presented. Are there any objections to approving the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved as presented, including the South Ruby High School Jazz Band field trip to the Clark College Jazz Festival. Student board members, we'll turn to you now for a report.
Okay, so starting off at the high school, students are starting to get back in the swing of like quizzes and the routines and all that stuff. Clubs are getting started, Spanish Club, Model UN, Career Trans Club, a whole bunch. Art classes made tape murals in the past couple weeks for the temporary construction walls, and it's really cool to see the students' creativity being showcased in that way.
And as for sports, all the fall sports are fully underway, and there is a wrestling invitational coming up, and there was a volleyball invite a few weekends ago. And as for home meets, soccer, football, volleyball, and tennis have all had matches. And in exciting news, the homecoming theme was announced at Wednesday's back to school assembly, and the theme is Tangled. And I think students are really excited for that, and I think it's gonna be a fun way for them to express how they feel about that. And also, band has been starting to play pep band music for the football games, and I think everyone's pretty excited about that. Also, for the middle school, sports, volleyball, and football have had home games this week, and cross country and wrestling have had invites this past weekend and have gone to Sultan this past Friday. The Lego Club began last week and meets on Fridays, and lots of student interests it has been in starting clubs, and the staff is really excited to support these interests and new ideas. There is a leadership elective that supports the ASB in school-wide events, and right now they're focused on the beautification of the campus and making posters and creating advertisements for the campus. There was also a great turnout for the South Whitby Middle School curriculum night last week, and all the Cougar families were really excited to come, and I think we reciprocated that excitement by connecting and supporting student success.
At the elementary school, I think tomorrow is back to school night. Families are coming and meeting with their child's teachers and all of the activities. There's a wide range of community organizations like Snow Isle Libraries and WIN who will be setting up tables to share information at curriculum night. Students are preparing for leadership opportunities also at the elementary school with ASB, ORCA leaders, mediators, and kindergarten helpers. These programs are for 4th and 5th graders, and all students who apply will be provided an opportunity to engage. The local fire department will be sending teams to the elementary school to engage in fire safety activities with all the TK through 5th graders during the first week of October. And the South Campus playground is completed, and our younger students are loving the opportunity to play in this great space. And then the main campus playground construction is also continuing forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Always exciting as all the clubs and sports and other extracurriculars get started and folks settle into routines. So thank you for being here during this kind of crazy time. Any questions or comments for the student reps?
I'm just curious how it's been at the middle and high school during the construction, if it's been disruptive or if you feel like things are settled enough that students can focus on learning.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like I have a class in one of the turntables, and sometimes there's really loud noises that disrupt learning a little bit, but it's nothing too crazy. And I think students are pretty acclimated to having like learning in a construction zone.
And yeah, I agree with what Callahan said, and I also have a class in that same area, but I think the distractions really are only like usually momentary, and I feel like students are still able to learn and it's not really affecting the learning process.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. We'll move on to public comment period. Do we have anyone signed up? Okay. I don't see anyone online either. Give it just a moment. If you are on our Zoom meeting, we have a few folks there and would like to make a public comment. Please use the Q&A function to enter your name and location, and we could know to pause while you type in your main comment. Not seeing anything coming in. We'll move on from public comments. We have no new business tonight. We're giving the administration a little bit of a break for the beginning of school. And so we'll move on to reports in our financial and enrollment report. Mr. Field.
My computer's dying, so I'm going to just do it off the screen tonight. So first for our report, this is our enrollment for September. And we are about 100 kids over budget right now across ALE and BEA. So it's a good trend. It's a little bit of a surprise for me for sure after our historical declining enrollment. But as we move through this, we'll kind of see where it's, what grade levels and bands are coming through. Next slide, please. So that orange dot up there in the upper left-hand corner is where we're at. And the green line is where we were at this time last year. So we have really outside of the normal trend. So it's looking good. October count is really the one that's the most important as we continue to iron out the enrollment from September, and kids are coming and going. But overall, it's looking promising. Next. So there's again, the scale is chopped off the bottom, but that orange line is where we're at this year, and this is based off of FTE. It's for total enrollment, ALE and BEA. Next slide. And again, the orange bars, it's across nearly every grade as you go across all of the grade bands there. The K3, there's around 30 plus. We saw that right away in September and moved forward with adding students to help with our teachers for our K3 compliance, because we knew that was going to be needed because it would line up with how we were last year. There's another 30-ish around in the 4-5 range, and then around 30 or so at the middle school range. The high school's about even overall, but it's a mix between the grades of the ups and downs, but that's a positive sign compared to prior years where the high school, as kids go off to running start, more of them are sticking around here, and there's just more of them in general. So next slide, please. All right, so this is our unaudited financial report for August 31st. I'm still closing the year, so these aren't the final numbers. So our revenue was 103% of over budget, and we are at 99.9% of our budgeted expenditures, and that's without the budget extension. So we are right up against it. I know I have some entries that are going to bring expenses in, so it's likely going to just creep over our original budget, but it's right up against it at the moment. So next slide, please.
Just to note, that's pretty exceptional to be at 0.06 under currently, even if it's going to nudge a little over the original. That's
It's about $13,000.
exceptional. Nicely done.
Thank you. So this says with encumbrances, but all the encumbrances were removed for August 31st. So this is basically the same graph as the previous one, just with, you can see that we went over a little bit in payroll and we're under on our MSOCs, but in total, we're right up against our initial budget. In our line, this is the revenue and expenditures year over year. Revenues continue to follow that trend just because how apportionment comes in, and expenditures just jump all over the place depending on what we pay during the month. The end of the year is pretty consistent, but that's always just, it's just hard to tell. When you pay stuff comes up. So the payroll stuff stays consistent, but it's the other things outside of payroll. Next slide, please. Our revenue by source continuing, just what we've seen all year long, decreasing in federal because the ESSER dollars are going away, and then state apportionment because of our enrollment, state special purposes. The biggest one, it's the smallest stack of graphs with that local revenue. We had pretty good increases because of the interest rates this year, and rental income is up compared to prior years as well. Next slide, please. Our same graphs for the different buckets. Nothing really to note there. Next slide, please. And then when our ending fund balance is 23.8%. Again, this is going to change as I continue to close the year and move things around. So this is that final budget status. Still, it's unaudited and it will change, but effectively break even $124,000 to the positive this year. And again, I think that's going to go down slightly as we continue to pay some bills in September that are appropriate for August 31st and will need to be moved back. So this is the summary of other funds. You can see our capital projects are bumping around as we've spent about $10 million this year. We made our first debt payment for the first bond sale, was that $1 million in debt service. I do want to draw attention to the ASB and what a great job they did this year, and the team that we have there. We brought in $122,000 and spent $122,000. So we spent $250 more than we brought in. So that to me shows that the money that the students brought in were spent on the students in the building. We had some collaborative purchases this year, the hurdles. There were some other items where we partnered with some of our community groups, booster clubs and otherwise, to help come together and split the cost on, I believe it was uniforms and hurdles are the ones that come to mind. But it's a very successful ASB that we're not adding to the ASB fund balance. They brought the money in, they spent it on the students that year, and that's how it should be, in my opinion. So I appreciate their efforts this year and the team that we have work with them, Mr. Sommers, Ms. Johnson. and the ASB reps. Are there any questions?
I noticed the just over 10% lower MSOC costs. Was that an intentional, compared to budget? Was that intentional to balance the additional salary, or?
So our capacity lives in MSOCs. So it's usually, we're never typically going to hit the MSOCs number because that's where we store our capacity numbers. So when I book revenue for grants that we may receive from the foundation, it hits a revenue side and then it lands in an MSOCs holding account. So if we get the money for a grant to go on a field trip or to the Snow Queen or to buy a pug mill, all the stuff they give us money to do, I hit that revenue account on the revenue contingency side, and then I draw it from the contingency on the expense side. So there's a big holding account that lives in MSOCs where we put capacity to pay for things if it comes up. So we wouldn't typically ever hit our whole MSOCs number.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? I'm very pleased to see the real close landing place to the previous budget, despite having greater expenditures due to more students and greater revenues due to that. That's fantastic. I'm also pleased to see the enrollment jump. I know that some of that is to do with matters outside of our control, with issues with local private schools that are closing or losing enrollment, but I don't know that accounts for all of it. So I think that's pretty fantastic.
After October, I'll work with our registrars. There's a add drop report that shows where students come and go, and we'll take a look at that to try to see where some of it came from. But the last year when we had at the same time, it was just a hodgepodge going in both directions. So it's not a bright line, or it hasn't been my experience as a bright line, like this is where they came from, but we will take a look to see if we can identify some sources of where they've come from.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Field. We'll turn to the superintendent's report. Dr. Clifford.
Okay. You'll be getting this and then a presentation. I'm not going through this, but I just want to show it to you. And then during our workshop next month, one of the things we'll talk about is how I share information with you. And this directly aligns with the goals. So I'm hoping that this might be really easily consumable. And so I just wanted to point that out. We're going to upload it so that it's also a part of the meeting. And in the future, you will get it ahead of time so you can review it. But I just wanted to call it out and just bring it up so that you saw. And it's just similar to the PowerPoint slide deck that had the meet and greets and the activities. But we're moving more towards activities and meetings now. I'm still doing some meet and greets, and that will continue throughout the year. But I'm not going to go through it, and you can read it at your leisure. So thank you, Christy, for bringing that up. And this is fun because now I don't have a lot of words on here. It's more pictures to just describe some of the great work that's been happening. So if we can, here's the things that we just have at the beginning of each of these, but the next slide is I'm just really proud of everyone. I mean, this was an incredible start of the school year. I'm proud of the administrative team and all the work that they did to make sure that we had an extremely smooth transition and really thought out, launched the year, given that we had so much transition with construction. District office worked really hard. Our staff were incredible. Our school staff didn't miss a beat, and they made sure that it was we added a kindergarten class during the first week of school before students started, and that teacher was up and running. You would not know that she hadn't been part of the team for the year. So the staff are food and nutrition services, custodial and maintenance, transportation. We were talking about how we did a lot. We had the big push over the summer. I want to specifically thank Christy and Heidi and then Linda, Paul, for all of the work that we did collaboratively over the summer. We were full with all positions filled, and those drivers are doing a great job. And I'm going to tell you that I have never been to a district that transportation has gone so smoothly. And I know that that wasn't just this year. I think that this is something that has happened. But the first day, first week, there is normally, I'm going to tell you that the level of, I mean, yes, it took a little longer the first day. That's normal because we're getting used to routes. We also have new drivers that we're getting used to, getting used to it. But and in the morning there was a little kind of traffic that had nothing to do with us that slowed us down in the morning that first day. But they really, it is the first district that I have ever been, and that was this smooth. And I know that this is not the first year. So kudos to them. Our students were incredible and continue to be incredible. And I was able to spend a lot of time with them and visit them. So that has been great. And then the families, we've had some different ways of showing up and parking and dropping off, and the families are working the system. So it's working all together. So I just couldn't be more proud for the start of school, and we're proud of being a part of the district. And then our community just continues to come together and show up. So the start of school went really well. I just highlighted one little picture. That first day I went to every single classroom. Some classes were out of their class because they were in specials, but I went into every single classroom, and on the next week I was in every single kindergarten classroom. I did meet and greets and did greet at the first 2 days at both schools, or one at each school. I was able to sit in one of our farm classes and then visit ALE on their first week of school. And so it's been lovely. I think by the end of September, I will do another full round of every single class. I've gotten into middle school a second time. And so I'm scheduled this week to get to the high school first floor again. And then I'll go back to elementary school on Friday. I'm at the buildings every single week, but I want to get into every single classroom frequently. So that little first picture is a scavenger hunt, and every single class that I went to, we're doing some level of community connections. High school, they had a different type of scavenger hunt, and they even like used me as the one that had the dog. There might be somebody in here that you can add as you fill out your scavenger hunt. So classroom visits, of course, we had curriculum night for the middle school, high school, and then we're having one tomorrow for elementary school. So that was great to connect with families and students. School's foundation meeting, and then athletic. I've been to a number of athletic events. I haven't made it to tennis yet, so I'll be there. And I think it's tomorrow. And then and I was able to go to a Booster Club event and make connections with those folks. Enrollment, as you've all just heard about enrollment, I want to share that across the region and the group of schools that we are a part of a regional group of districts. There's about a quarter of districts that have increased enrollment. And we did about a quarter. So we're just a part of that little upward trend with that group of districts. About a quarter that decreased, and then about a quarter that stayed the same. Or I mean, about a 50% that stayed the same. Check my math. So anyways, great start of school. And just when I did my second walkthrough 2 weeks in at the middle school, you could tell everybody's settled in and they're getting into their groove. So it's been wonderful to make connections with the students. I'm going to switch to the next one. I'm not going to go through this. All I did was pull out the things that we did in September, or I did in September, and the team did in September for the superintendent entry plan. And on the entry plan, I'm on the green, I'm noting what months things get done so that it's not only just green, but then you can see kind of the progress. So that just kind of shows out of the 5 goals, 3 of them we've made progress in different areas. So, and then one at the bottom was about transportation, and I got to ride the bus yesterday. Driver Carrie took me for a bus ride on the Cougar EV bus, and he showed up in his EV bike. So I had to take a picture, and we did he did, but I helped a little bit, the whole school bus check, and it was wonderful. I got to play some rock, paper, scissors with some students, and we had a good time. And then I have to do a great shout out to Christy because she helped me put on a number of things. This is just one of many, but the Coffee with Clifford, she pulled this together really beautifully. We had that on Monday, and we had, I want to say 11, 12, 13, maybe 15. I didn't actually count, but we had quite a few people come. And I thought it went really well. Thank you for being there. It was lovely to see you. We had a number of different perspectives, but also special ed was a big a big talking point. We really got to do Q&A at the very end, so we didn't have a lot of time to dig into things. I just want to remind people that it's only been 3 weeks of school, so it's going to take me a little bit of time to really, really dig in and really deeply get to know the next steps in some of our work. And so I think that there's a lot of eagerness and desire, specifically around special ed, to have some quick fixes. And I wish I could give some quick fixes. But some of this is going to take some of the things that are work that we need to do is going to take some time. What I realized with Coffee with Clifford was we're still going to do it, but I'm going to hold not a Coffee with Clifford, but a special ed forum, or I don't want to call it forum, but an event just for special ed, so that we can have the families come in and we'll have a whole way of us getting information, so that it's a really productive way of sharing information, but also in a positive way where we can move forward and gather information. So that will be coming out. Hopefully we will do that by the end of October. So we're going to transition bond planning and bond work. We really want to give, I know that families want some specifics and community wants specifics. And right now it's really hard to give specifics because we're working on the roofing, we're working on the siding, and it's like, it's all of these pieces that it's not really concrete to say we've accomplished this because we're in progress. So what we can do is share pictures, and we are working on identifying what is some things that we can start communicating and getting an FAQ of progress that we're doing. But right now it's kind of this like behind the scenes work. It's I think but it's great. And we have been in the last 2 weeks, all the administrators have been actively planning for next steps and mapping out what the next year is going to look like and the next year after that. But we also know that it will change once we have the open bids right now for this next step. And once we get the subcontractors, then we'll get more details, and then we'll get to fine tune some of those plans. And then there's lots of factors that come into play. We also had our bond sale, and that was a big deal. So we finally sold the last piece of our bond, and so we will have all of our money so that we can pay for the work to get done. And in that picture right there is, I think probably the first thing that we're going to be able to share is the success of the completion of our playground at the North Campus. And so that just shows you how much soft cushiness, this is my non-technical, non-construction terms, under the turf to support students on the play area. And so that's in the process of getting done. And students are eager to get there, and I'm excited for them to be on there on the playground too. So great work, and the teams been working together. I do want to mention really quickly, because it's come up recently, there's been some information. Hold on, I want to make sure that I get this right. There's been some questions around restroom design, and there's some parts of the out in the community. There's some designs that are circulating around our restrooms, and I want to say that that I believe that they look like they're publicly circulating, and I believe that they might have been created for the permitting process or for illustrative purposes at a beginning part of the process at some point. They don't represent the district's current or final design. And so I know that there was some questions about how and where we're labeling and what our labeling of our restrooms are. What I do want to share is that we are going to continue to continue our same practice right now around offering both gender specific and gender inclusive restrooms. And our restrooms are scheduled for later in the construction, and there's like different steps in the process. So different restrooms are going to be addressed at certain times. But the difference in this new design is it offers greater safety and privacy for using single user stalls with floor to ceiling doors. This approach was developed with input from students, families, staff, and community members. It follows Washington state law and best practices. And again, it is the same practice that we've been currently doing. It's just that the design is slightly different. And we explored what works in other districts. There are several districts that are doing this in Washington state as well as across the nation. And so based on that information, we've been considering and thinking about how we're going to incorporate that knowledge to just deepen our practice around supervision and monitoring measures. Not that we have to change them, but we just are aware of lessons learned from what's been highly successful with the single stall bathrooms. What I do want to communicate about the new features of these restrooms is that there's no main entry door. So it's safer because we can see what's happening in the common space in the restroom. There's clear sight lines that allow for appropriate supervision. There's floor to ceiling stalls that lock and vacancy indicators for comfort and privacy. And we will have gender specific restrooms and gender neutral restrooms, just like we have now. So, and so I just wanted to make sure that I shared that when I gave the update on the construction, because there's just some there's just some things that are circulating out there that doesn't accurately represent where we are right now in the process of our bond project. And then there's just a few more. I had a lovely Saturday at the League of Women Voters. We had 3 representatives from each of the school district. And thank you, Director Williford, for your representation of the South Whigby School District and around funding for public education. It was a really informative session, and there was a nice article that quoted from that. And so I really appreciated being able to be a part of that. All 3 superintendents were also there. And then there were a number of community members and some teachers. So it was a nice event. And it just was a great time to really dig into the strengths of what the legislation was able to achieve and what there's the continued work that we have to do in preparation for as we move forward in the next steps in legislation. So thank you for representing our district. And then finally, we have next, very soon, so next week, suicide prevention event. So please join. It's adults only, and it's good information so that we can support and continue to ensure safety for our students. And then we have free meals at our elementary school because we have enough submission of these forms. So if you haven't completed this form yet, please make sure you complete this form. It is a fabulous program that the state supports us with, and it's all because we have appropriate counts that allow us to meet the threshold for free meals. So that is my update for today.
Dr. Clifford, just a point of clarification. Do all families need to complete the form regardless of if they would qualify for financial assistance with food, or should only families needing financial assistance with food complete?
I'm going to let Christy share, or Paul.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That anyone who thinks they may qualify, or even if think they're above, we don't get docked for people applying that don't qualify.
Yeah.
It's a threshold of 30% of our population to qualify for the House Bill 1238. I think that's right. So it doesn't hurt to apply, even if you know you're not going to qualify. It doesn't hurt us if you don't qualify. It's just capturing as many qualified folks as we can to get over that threshold. And with that increase in enrollment, we qualified by less than one F1 student last year. So the enrollment is a blessing, but our number of application needs to go up to maintain free meals at the elementary school.
Okay, thank you.
And some people don't know that they would qualify. So if you apply, you might qualify, and then it helps us and it helps you. So, yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
This is a very trivial aside to a very substantive presentation, so I apologize in advance. I'm pleasantly surprised to see the association with Clifford the Big Red Dog, because I have often thought how cool it is that you share a name with Clifford the Big Red Dog, but I thought it would be a really trite thing to raise myself. So now that I've seen Clifford on your branded materials, I just want to embrace that little special factor about you.
Well, thank you. You can't, well, folks can't see it right now, but I have my red pants on and I wore them the first day of kindergarten. And so to help make name recognition, sometimes I do that. And I even did it with some of the middle and high school classes when I went in there, and just made a joke about it. So the team said it would be great to have Clifford on this, so they went with it. So thank you. Yes, it is okay.
And I just want to reinforce that, oh boy, howdy, are the elementary schoolers really, really itching to get on that playground. My daughter talks about it pretty much every day. She's so very excited. So, and I expect that that is very true of the majority of students here. So I know that they're looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to hearing them crow about it instead of complain that they can't be there yet. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to board reports. Are there any board members who would like to make a report?
I'd like to provide a legislative update. So first off, I was able to share coffee and conversation with Representative Shavers a few days ago, and we split our time between talking about my day job, which is environmental advocacy, and my school district service, which is educational advocacy. And he basically restated what we all know, which is that education funding is a priority for the Washington State Legislature and is going to continue to remain a challenge. And that going into this legislative session, we're not looking at a particularly rosy financial picture for Washington State. So he didn't surprise me with that news, but he remains open to hearing us and wanting to speak up for the rights of students and the education funding that we know all Washington students need. I also participated in the Washington State School Directors Association General Assembly, which was scheduled to take place all day Saturday and was blessedly very brief and wrapped up by about 12:30. So I was really pleased that we got to debate and vote on over 30 positions in a really succinct time frame. The technology worked well. The team was very thoughtfully prepared and walked us through how to use the platform really efficiently. I spoke up at a few points on positions that I thought I would share with our leadership team. I didn't make any out of left field comments, but I spoke to points where I felt it had been clarified in our board discussions. So on proposal number 2, which was a suggested revision to bylaws, it had to do with WASDA's model policy development process. And basically the proposal was to make the development of model policies much more of a mini cooks in the kitchen process with input from all of WASDA's boards and or members. And I spoke to what I think is the value of the WASDA model policy program, which is that the legal team that they can hire gives resources to member boards who can then choose to adopt or modify that model policy based on specific community needs. And I really spoke to the fact that our community does workshop these things, and we often have opportunity to dialogue around what does our unique school district need to do with a model policy, and sometimes that means modification. And so I did vote con, speak con, and the proposal failed. I spoke pro on proposal 6, which was about WASDA adopting a stance of being in support of continued funding from the state for transitional kindergarten. And I spoke about how important it was in our district in particular to be able to get that program up and running and keep it running. And that proposal did pass. I spoke pro on proposal 17, which was adding a little bit of language to WASDA's professional development standards. It added the words continuously and regularly and the words effective board governance to the existing WASDA position, which states that there are expectations for WASDA members to engage in professional development. And I spoke about how much we value the opportunity as individuals serving on a board to continuously and regularly learn about effective board governance. And that proposal passed. I spoke pro on proposal 22, which was about adopting a position of climate change education and sustainability. And I spoke with the additional caveat that it would be important to ask for it to be a request for full funding for this science curriculum rather than an unfunded mandate. And I think because of the general concerns about budgetary constraints, the proposal was discussed widely in positive terms, but it ultimately failed. And then I didn't speak, but our colleagues in Coupeville spoke about expanding access to re-engagement programs. And I thought it was really interesting that they were asked to clarify why this and not ALE. And they basically said it's this and ALE. And in their circumstances, students younger than 16 and students who need support, but for whom guardian guidance and or participation can be hard to secure, that those students need to be served. And right now, ALE is a less effective way to serve those students than these re-engagement programs, which are slightly more inclusive of students with a wider breadth of needs and ages. And that proposal did pass. And then finally, I just want to let you know that they reminded us that January 9th and 10th is the WASDA-WASBO, that's Washington Association of School Administrators, Washington State School Directors Association, and Washington School Business Officers Associations are all having their legislative conference. Thank you. Any questions?
What's that date again?
That is January 9th and 10th.
Thank you very much. Any other board members with a report?
Couple of short things. I want to thank Director Jackson for volunteering a weekend day to attend General Assembly on our behalf. I attended the high school curriculum night in my role as a parent, and I want to thank Mr. Patton for such a lovely event. It was great to see all the enthusiasm and expertise of the teachers and seeing so many students helping out and so many community partners in attendance. It was really a well-run event. I'm announcing my candidacy for the Washington State School Directors Executive Board. Every district area is represented by one board member from one of the school boards in that area. And we're in District Area 1. Our current incumbent is retiring. And so I decided to put my name in the ring. So voting is eligible for any current school board director. So that includes all of us and the other 170 or so colleagues of ours in this region. So you'll receive your electronic ballot in about a week. So please vote for me. Thanks. Thank you. And as part of our board goals, I have attended a girls swim and dive meet, also in my role as a parent. And I would like to, or I've set a personal goal to attend one sporting and one non-sporting event per season. So that would be 6 total over the course of the school year, and to visit every school at least once over the course of the year. And with the permission of the leadership team, I'll begin to reach out and start to schedule school visits. Hopefully things are hitting their stride and it would be less of a distraction to have a visitor. So that's my personal goals for that board goal.
I appreciate that framework that you've built for yourself. That's inspirational. I also wanted to say thank you for curriculum night. It looked like it was going really well. It was well attended. I was there in my civilian nonprofit hat, but it was just really cool to see everybody was engaged. First thing I thought when I walked into the Cougar Den was, whoa, there's a new wall there. And I got to see some of the cool tape art, which was very cool. So, thank you for hosting that. And I look forward to also being in my civilian nonprofit role at the elementary one tomorrow.
Thank you both. Okay, I wanted to add a note or two to the League of Women Voters. Thank you very much for attending and backing me up there with confirming some of the numbers that I had. I thought it was actually a really interesting experience. I wish it had been open to people besides League of Women Voters members, because I think it would have been very valuable for people to hear from Representative Shavers and the chairs of the 3 island school boards on funding. Representative Shavers caught some strays for school funding issues that were in place before he was in the chair, but we were all very careful to note that when that came up. He did add one thing about upcoming work. There is an effort to build a team to work on the prototypical redoing the prototypical school model into something better is beginning. He does not see that as a soon thing. He was saying 8 to 10 years. Because they're not looking just to fix the prototypical school model, they're looking to replace it. He mentioned his hopes to have incremental increases and change in the meantime, but that is both good news and bad news as far as I'm concerned. It was very interesting to hear the similarities in funding issues between the 3 districts and the differences, considering that Coupeville and South Whidbey would fit into both the enrollment and budget of Oak Harbor without making too many waves. About half the size combined. But there were a lot of things that were very similar, which was very interesting to me. We've all done self-evaluations. Those have come in. I will be emailing them to you shortly, and we will be discussing them at our retreat so that we can fine-tune our own work as well. That's all I have. Anyone else have anything to add? Okay, thank you very much. Good night. This meeting is adjourned.